is coming to this side of the pond. ABC News, Aaron Katersky is live in Havana getting ready for Pope Francis's trip there on Sunday. Good morning, Aaron Katersky.
McGraw, good morning. The Pope arrives on Saturday, and it's part of a 9-day trip that is the longest of his papacy, and it's the first Pope from the New World to visit the New World. And in that regard, the Pope believes that there are a number of connections he can make, both with Cubans and with Americans, and here in Havana especially. He can take something of a victory lap after helping broker the restored diplomatic ties between Cuba and the United States. But there are those here who are hoping he will push also for greater human rights, more religious freedom, and an end to the U.S. embargo.
Yeah, he's bringing it, if you will, starting off in Cuba, where it was or it still is, I guess, a communist country, and they have an interesting history with their own religion. But the island of Cuba, a very much Catholic island. Many of the Cubans are Catholic, so I can only imagine fireworks when he gets there. People are going to be thrilled.
People are psyched, and you can just see it. The images of the Pope are plastered up everywhere, kind of like images of Fidel or Che. They hang like campaign posters almost. And you're right, though. There's been a tension over the years between the Castro regime and the church. And some critics say the church has been too conciliatory and want the Pope especially to be far more confrontational about the need to open the church up a little bit more in Cuba and expose what some of the contradictions in the Castro government are. But whether the Pope is willing to go that far in public is not clear. Some of the toughest negotiations may be in private. He is expected to meet not only Raul Castro, but at some point during his trip, Fidel.
After he spends the weekend in Havana, then it's off to the U.S. What are his plans for the U.S.?
When he arrives in Washington, he's going to be greeted by President Obama, and then he has his speech to Congress, and he's going to talk mainly about climate change, we're told, and also immigration, and those are two issues that may put him at odds with the party that controls Congress, even though many are about Catholics and supporters of the Pope more generally. And it's going to be an interesting relationship because the American bishops are a far more conservative lot than Pope Francis appears to be. Not that he's really changed any doctrine, but he does seem to have a more open approach.
Aaron Katersky, live in Havana. Last question for you. Just out of curiosity, if a reporter were to go to Havana, Cuba, how many Cuban cigars are they allowed to bring back currently?
You mean in theory?
Yes, in theory.
I think you have a $150 limit now on what you can bring back in theory. So if one wanted to get something for his buddy, say in St. Louis,
yes,
all said buddy would have to do would be to ask, and perhaps requests could be accommodated for, say, cigars or rum or
interesting, very interesting. Okay, good. Aaron Katersky, ABC News correspondent, live in Havana. Aaron, be safe. Thanks for checking in.
Bye, McGraw.
625 here at Big 550 KTRS.
That was a good question.
Really? Okay, the Pope's there, great. But what about you?
What about my cigars?
What are you sneaking back in?